Yeah, my name is Philipp Storz. I'm head of development, and today I would like to tell you something about the upcoming features of Bareos 25, and also about, because we got this question from one of you, how to make Bareos highly available. So the overview, yes, of the presentation. I want to have a quick look at what needs to be done to make the Bareos system highly available, and then going on with upcoming features for Bareos 25. So one of my favorite new features is Barry, the Windows disaster recovery tool, and that's the one that I will talk longest about. Then also we have a new Hyper-V plugin to back up Hyper-V virtual machines. We have a Proxmox plugin that is also able to back up Proxmox guests, which are virtual machines and containers. And we have, we can say we had it before, a tape alert plugin for the storage daemon for tape handling, but that is now new and can do much more things than it could do before. Okay, then I would say let's
mute it again.
I don't know why when I change it, it gets muted, but thanks for the info. Okay, so if you want to make some software highly available, you have to make sure that the parts that contain the state of the software system are highly available. And then let's have a look at Bareos. What are the parts that have a state in the Bareos system? One thing is the configuration files. And then the second thing is the content of the catalog database. And of course, the content of the storage backup media. So we have to somehow make all these three parts highly available to have a high available Bareos system. So let's start, have a look at the files. Okay, having files highly available is relatively easy. If you have two machines, one machine that is currently the Bareos server and the second machine that should take over if the first machine somehow doesn't work anymore, we can easily copy over the files, synchronize them either with tools like rsync, like secure copy, or even completely generate the configuration out of a configuration management system like Ansible or Puppet. So this is relatively easy. The second more interesting part is the database. But as we do have PostgreSQL as the database engine, we can just use the well-known and well-working mechanisms that PostgreSQL offers to have a secondary database that gets updated automatically with everything that happens on the primary database. So there's the two options currently, as far as I know. So a warm standby server that gets updated by log shipping. So the write-ahead logs are automatically sent over to the secondary machine, and that will then automatically put the changes into the database. And with streaming replication, I think it's even a shorter period that both are not in sync. So it's very easy to have a second database server that will more or less be in sync with your main database. Yes, and the third thing is the media that stores your data. So what can be done there to be highly available? So they're highly available with media can mean different things. One thing is, for example, if you, so the question is, what is the accident or the problem that your high availability needs to survive? So one thing, for example, if you have a fire in your data center, then for that, for example, you can take media offline. We have some customers that exchange all the tapes that they have once a week, I think, out of their company to storage where they are safely stored, for example. Then another thing is that your storage system can go down. For that, you should have a highly available storage system that might also be, for example, mirrored to a different location. If you are afraid of having some ransomware deleting or encrypting your backup files if they are stored on the file system, you can use something like snapshots so that at least you have an older version and the current visible data can be recovered. Another option is to use warm media if you want to be sure that even an attacker cannot overwrite the existing data that you have on your media. And another option, for example, could be to have a virtual tape library that itself can then automatically mirror the virtual tapes also to a different location. We do have some customers that have a high available setup that is, I think, mostly the most important part there, I think, is that the database is mirrored. So in case that the database hardware, so the server hardware itself gets out of business, they can quickly start up the rest on the secondary machine. But I think the media is mostly is both a storage system that's highly available, and they also export the tapes to a different part of the tape library that cannot be accessed via the normal way of accessing the tape changer. Yeah, so far my thoughts or things about highly availability of a Bareos server. Any questions about that? Okay, none. Then I hope that it was either clear or if you are just thinking about and have more asked questions, you can always ask later. I think, yeah, Christoph H.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, we are doing high availability using Pacemaker and CoroSync. And there was one caveat, maybe interesting for others who want to try it. We have two different not file sets, but media sets in both data centers, and we realized that if the volumes are called the same, for example, we have volume 1 on the left side and volume 1 on the right side, Bareos doesn't seem to distinguish between them and seems to expect a volume on the other side. So just as a side note, it's important if you have two locations to have a different naming scheme for your volumes.
So you're running an active high availability. So you have on both sides a running director.
Active passive. No, it's active passive. But the catalog is the same. So when we switch over to the disaster data center, so to say, and it wants to access a certain volume, it seems to ask for a volume that's on a different data center. Maybe we've been doing something wrong.
Yeah, maybe because then of course you have to either so also the secondary machine needs to be able to access the same volume under the same storage name.
Yeah, so but we have two different pools. So in case the main data center burns down, we have a copy on the second data center.
So you're talking about Bareos copy. So you copied your jobs to another storage daemon.
No, those are different backups indeed. So it's not a migration. Okay, if that's not known, then yeah, ignore me. I just realized that this happened to us.
Okay, yeah,
maybe it makes sense.
Probably something is not the way that it should be set up, because of course the view on the system should be exactly the same on the second machine than on the primary machine. And if that is not the case, of course, then something is maybe not optimal somehow.
I can try to reproduce that. Yeah, it seemed that that restore job was asking just for a volume and not caring which pool it was in. But I'm willing to check this out.
Okay.
Media type.
Yeah. Okay. If you don't mind, I would go on then. Okay. Okay. So yeah, now my favorite new feature of Bareos 25 is the Bareos Recovery Imager. So what is it? It is a Windows disaster recovery solution. It creates a disaster recovery image of the running Windows machine, and it does consistent backups by using VSS snapshotting and then getting all the information that Windows uses and writes this into a backup file. So the Bareos system has a different an architecture consisting of different parts. And what we do have is we have a file daemon plugin for Windows running on Windows. We have also a command line tool for Windows. We also do have a file daemon plugin for Linux and also a command line tool for Linux. And why this is the case, I would like to explain next. So the backup operation requires a running Windows system because we rely on the VSS snapshots to be able to back up everything that's currently active on a Windows machine. The usual way that this will be implemented is that on regular basis, you run a backup of this machine as disaster recovery image, and then it will create a VSS snapshot of all Windows file systems. It will back up the partition table and all file systems that Windows is currently using. The good thing is that it really will also only back up used blocks of the existing disks and not just creating a full image like other tools do. And all this is then stored in a virtual Bare file. So the Bare format is something that was invented extra for this tool, and it contains the information of all of the disk of the partition table and of the setup of the disk and the different partitions and what has been stored from which partition. So an alternative backup operation is that we also can do if it's not wanted to create it automatically by file daemon. We also have a command line tool that is able to do in principle exactly the same. So it's just an executable that you can run as administrator, and it will then do exactly the same. It creates a VSS snapshot, will read out all the data that is required, and can write it both directly to a disk or even to standard out. And that's quite handy because if you do it like this, it makes sense to pipe it, for example, to Z standard that will compress the image to a much smaller size, which is good if you are using some kind of USB stick or something. You don't need to have such a big one. And a quick overview how the backup operation works. So in principle, we have a common part I called here libbare. So that's the core part of that contains all the mechanisms and functionality that is required to do the backups. And this is both used by the command line tool. So if you make a disaster recovery image by the command line tool, that exactly the same is happening as is happening with the file daemon plugin. Only that there you can, for example, write it directly to a USB key. And if you're running it in the normal backup operation, it will be executed by the file daemon plugin and then just stored like every other backup also. So, and how can we recover what we have backed up? So one option to recover it is to start up a Linux emergency recovery system that will have a file daemon, a Linux file daemon configured together with the file daemon plugin. And then we can just select the recovery image to be recovered. And then this can be recovered to the disks via the Linux disaster recovery image, the Linux disaster recovery system. And it will write directly the blocks that come back to the disks. And this is exactly what was saved also on Windows. And afterwards, you can just restart the machine and will have the Windows recovered. Also, we do have a command line tool for Linux, so you can start up a Linux emergency system. And as long as you have the Bare file either created before, also by command line tool, via USB stick, for example, or you can also recover the Bare file that has been backed up via the plugin, also directly on a local disk. And that can be then also recovered from Linux directly to the local file system. And optionally, also, we are able to write to individual disk files. So if you have a system that has multiple disks, also it is possible to create multiple disk files containing the blocks that belong to each disk. For example, if you want to transfer this to a virtual machine, for example. The same is true for Windows. So we can also recover the backup for Windows. Why do we have both options for Linux and for Windows? The reason for that is that we have a pilot customer testing out the functionality, and unfortunately, this customer has a hardware system where there's a new hardware driver required that is not available on Linux yet. So the problem is that you could not recover the system from a Linux live image because the storage driver that is required is not available on Linux, so you cannot see the disks and cannot recover. So that's why we investigated how to do this on via Windows, and Windows offers the Windows PE system, I think pre-boot execution environment or something. That's something that we are unfortunately not allowed to redistribute, but it is relatively easy for everyone to create such a system and write it to USB stick. And we can boot from this Windows PE system. Sorry?
I think there's one question.
Yeah?
Hi guys. Short question. I did not understand it. Which hard drives do you really backup? Do you only backup the real Windows or Linux system disk or system hard drive, or do you make a backup of the whole server right now?
So all this is mostly about Windows, because there we can on Windows in the live system create the VSS snapshots that make sure that we are able to make a consistent backup of all blocks that have been used in that point in time. And we automatically select all file systems that Windows understands and can do a VSS snapshot plus the EFI partition. But you can also configure to, for example, back up everything. Then it will only back up the partitions that it understands via VSS by skipping all unused blocks. And it will then also back up other partitions completely from front to back, because we don't know which of the blocks are currently in use.
But per default, it's only the system drive where the system is, because I tried REAR, the other backup solution, a few months ago in this same expert circle was like, we had like an introduction to it, and REAR per default tries to rebuild the whole system, the whole servers. Which came to
here is the same. So if you have a disk, if you have a Windows machine, no, this is just about Windows now. So the main intention here is Windows. So and the big advantage over the Linux REAR thing is that here we can make a backup out of the running system and having a consistent view on all blocks that are currently in use, which is unfortunately not possible on Linux right now.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Linux version of REAR, which comes up maybe of Bari, which comes up lately, because I came into the problem that the REAR backup software backup for my file servers. I have one boot drive with system image and a few of large hard drives which data on it, very large arrays, and the REAR system deletes all this and rebuilt it up new, and came to the idea, after you have your new system, I rebuild your boot system, but I clean everything else also up. This system per default, this REAR per default, deletes any partition and rebuilds any partition and formats them new. And in my case, for example, I tried it on some old server, there were like 300 terabytes of data were formatted. This is the default way REAR works. And I was talking to the people of REAR, and they thought, yeah, this is the default way, because he went like a complete backup and a complete resolution in that case. And I thought, okay, for me, a good resolution would be let all the other data besides the main drive I need for my system, let them like they are. Do not delete anything. Do not make any new format.
So I'm quite sure that with RIA there's a lot of options, and probably there's also a solution to script around your problems to skip to recreate.
Yeah, there is.
This here has nothing to do with RIA. It is totally independent. It doesn't have any code in common, and it also works completely different.
I do not have to think about.
But still, if you have a hardware machine that has 2 disks, and you have backed up this machine with Barry into one file, and you recover it, and you tell it to recover everything, then it will recover everything, but everything will be exactly the same as it was when it was backed up. So there's nothing empty afterwards, but it will have the size of 300 terabytes if your machine.
Yeah. No, the question was only if you have if it does it automatically. Take over all the machine, all the drives it finds, or if I have to define it by myself, you have to define it by myself, then it's all okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah. And also it can, for example, create VADX files. So also you can make like physical to virtual migration with it if required, so that you can create a new Hyper-V machine and give it the VHDX files, and then it can start up and you have your hardware virtualized. Or also the other way around, you can make a Barry dump from your virtual machine with Windows 11 and dump it on the laptop, and that also works. So we did quite a lot of different tests, and that was really impressive that it works quite well. So
yeah, sorry if I interrupt. You could also specify, I only want to restore this in this partition. So just in case you want to extract some data, you got the possibilities with this tool.
You can decide what disks it should recover or not.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so again, restore operation, how does it work? Either the Bareos server has the Barry file stored, or you have it on your USB key. You can then either feed it through the plugin into your mass storage, or through Barry CLI into the mass storage. It will recover it, and then everything will be back and exactly the way as if the machine would have been switched off in the moment that you created the VSS snapshot. So a word about performance, because that was quite nice. I have a quite fast USB stick, and here with my test laptop that I guess it's around 5 years old already, I was able to recover the installation of Windows create an image in 2 minutes, piping it through that standard, and recreate the machine from an image in 3 minutes. So that was really quite fast, and that was because the USB stick was fast. So that was really, I tried it with other ones and then it gets much slower, but Barry itself is really fast, and I think it's much faster than even reinstalling Windows even automatically from any other source. Questions? We already had one. More about this maybe?
It maybe also minds the polls in the chat function. You see some polls, so you can just give feedback to some of our questions.
Yeah. Okay. Then let's go on. So yeah, we have also a Hyper-V plugin now available. It can back up virtual machines running on Hyper-V. It can do full and incremental backups. It can recover directly to a new virtual machine, for example, or recreate the existing one. We are also able to recover single disks if that is required, for example. And it uses the resilient change tracking functionality, which means that also incremental and differential backups will only contain logs that have changed since the last backup, comparable to what VMware does with the change block tracking. So not much more than just one slide about that. Yes, Tom Rocky, please. Hello? I think you're unmuted, but I still don't hear anything, sorry. Maybe if there's audio problem, you also can just put the question in the chat, maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe you just maybe you write the question in the chat, and then we later on can come back to that, I would say. And I just go on now. Jörg, what do you think?
Yes, that's what I wanted to propose.
Okay. Yeah, another nice new feature that we will have in Bareos 25 is a Proxmox plugin. The Proxmox plugin we have now is able only to do full backups of Proxmox guests, but we can back up both virtual machines and container guests. And the restore works both directly to a new guest or overwrite the existing one. And also it can recover to the subdirectory where Proxmox itself stores backups that you create via the GUI. And this is quite handy, I think, because then you can, the administrator can, through the GUI, recover the virtual machine backup however he wants. So we can, I think, easily create a new VM or overwrite the existing one, or even adapt the configuration of the virtual machine. Yeah. Another questions round. I hope the technology works better now with the audio. If someone has a question.
Now the question from Tomoaki is in the chat.
Ah, okay. It's only
Will you support a plugin outside of Proxmox and Microsoft?
Sorry? Didn't understand. Can you read it again?
Will you support a plugin outside of Proxmox and Microsoft?
Honestly, I don't understand what exactly is meant with that question.
If we going to support Nutanix, for example, I think.
Other solutions. In principle, yes. So if we do have a customer request for that, for sure, we will definitely look into that. And yes, that's it. So it always depends on what the API is. If we are able to access the API with open source software, which we also already had some closed source vendors that don't want to tell us how the API works to back up something from them. But yeah, if there's a request for backing up Nutanix, then of course you can contact us and we will happily look into what we can do for you, of course.
And also this has been just about the new plugins that's getting introduced with the next version of Bareos. We already got some other ones. VMware plugin, for example, is used quite heavily, or MS SQL or something like this. So yeah, there are more plugins around.
Yeah, in principle, the backup API is quite powerful. We also can add more functionality if required. We just have to see, yes. So in principle, of course, we're open to support more other products anytime.
But Philip, you see there are also 2 additional questions in the chat.
Not yet. Do we want to answer them now, or maybe
yes,
after?
Yeah,
okay.
Or is there other topics around?
No problem. Okay.
So one is about incremental backups for Proxmox plugin.
Yeah, so that is definitely planned for having incremental backups for the Proxmox plugin, but the API is quite new. And as far as we looked into it, relatively complicated. So it definitely will take more time to implement the incremental backup API for Proxmox. So we really have to look into it and better understand how that works. But yes, in principle, we definitely are interested in having this implemented.
If our customer also tells us that they are interested in this.
Of course, yes. And in the optimal case, of course, that they say, okay, I have this amount of money to get it implemented for you. Yeah.
So
is the Proxmox UI necessary to run the restores? No. That was, I hope that was clear how I told it. So there's one of two options. One option is that you can directly recover into a virtual machine without any interaction, but that will then, of course, recreate the machine exactly as it was. And the second option that I said, to be able to do it via the UI, is to give the administrator more options. So you have a backup as recovered to the place where a manual backup also would have been created. And then you have all the options that the Proxmox GUI gives you to create a new machine out of a backup. And I think there you also can change the hardware while doing that, change the size of disks and other things. So it's just another option to do it. But if you just want to restore the machine exactly as it was when you restore it, you don't have to do anything. It's just restoring the backup, and it will recreate the machine. Okay. I think that's the questions, right, Jörg, or did I oversee something?
A new question has appeared. So is Bareos 25? Yeah.
25th of November. That's interesting. Yeah, no, we try to have a release date of end of October, beginning of November. So that's something we are planning with. But as always, it's not something like we can absolutely guarantee that it comes out exactly on that date. So yes, for sure it will come out somewhere beginning of November. So I would say in the first or second week of November, I guess we'll be done with it. So quite confident that we will come out something like that. Okay. Good. Yeah, another nice plugin we have now. So for everyone who is using tape drives, until now, okay, let's start the other way around. Let's talk about what tape alerts are. Tape alerts is a standard for tape drives and robots, and it is a message channel, if you wish, that can give the backup software information about the status of tape drives and robots. So if there's any warning condition, any error condition, or something, a certain tape alert flag can be set by the hardware. And if you read it out and know what the meaning of these tape alerts are, then you can also understand much better when there's problems with your tape hardware. Because until now, we didn't read out this information. And when there's a critical condition, often the only thing that we see as backup software is that we get a read error or other errors, hard errors on the tape drive. And then we cannot react better because we don't have the knowledge. And on the other hand, the problem is that the administrator also doesn't get the information what the problem might be. And that's what the tape alert is about. So whenever a tape is mounted or unmounted, or we do a load or an unload and other things, we read out the current status of the tape alert flags. And when there is something said, we will log message containing the log alert, the tape alert flag number, and also the whole description about what this problem is about and what should be done. And here is an example of that. So when you get the tape alert flag 21, it means clean periodic. The tape is due for cleaning, and then it tells you what needs to be done here. And the good thing is there is a quite nice information in the internet containing all this information about each tape alert flag. So whenever a tape alert problem happens in the future, we will have exactly the flag number, the description, what is happening, and what the administrator should do in the job log, so that you don't have to guess what might be the problem, but you can get immediately the information from the tape. Okay, the tape is broken, the tape whatever is too hot or something, so that the administrator directly knows, okay, I probably don't need to wait for something to happen, but I have to repair this tape, for example. Yeah, that's what the tape alert plugin is about. Any questions regarding that?
Hey, Philip, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Oh,
I can.
thank you. Sorry,
Hello.
it wasn't working earlier. Yeah, the question I had earlier was I originally set up the using Bareos because it worked well with Overt and the plugin to back up the VMs from within the console. So with the end of Overt, end of life, you guys stopped supporting that. We were looking for another option for our virtualization, and we chose Nutanix because the price range was way better than VMware and Microsoft, and we were just looking for a way to still utilize that feature because it'd be nice to back up the VMs directly out of the console, like Bareos did with Overt, and that's what I was. That's the question I was asking, and if there's any future plans to get Nutanix on board to have that work with Bareos.
In principle, yes, we are always open to have more features. But of course, for supporting Nutanix, we first need to understand exactly what API they have to be able to do what you need. And then somehow we also need to have access to a system from Nutanix so that or at least an emulator or something so that we can program against their machine to make sure that it really works. So I'm not sure if there is some emulator or something, or if you know someone at Nutanix, because usually we do have test cases for all plugins we have, and it often makes sense not just to program things just once, but to have a regular access to a system where you can make sure that even when the code changes, still all plugins work. And that's maybe the interesting part. But if you say, yeah, that's something we are absolutely interested in, then we definitely can talk about and have a look how we can get this done. So I think Nutanix, I think we already, at least in principle, looked a bit at Nutanix, and I think they do have a lot of API information publicly available, but I'm not exactly sure if that's all what we need to make a virtual machine backup, because I think they support in the backend different virtualizations, right? I think you can also run Nutanix on VMware or something like that. Is that true?
Yes, that's true. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, I have some context there. I just don't know how I can help you guys or how I can see what would work. It would be really nice to have an alternative besides just the two.
And so what are you using as a virtualization? So they do have their own.
Yeah. So right now
there?
I'm leaving Overt. I still have Overt up and running on a production environment, and now I'm moving it to Nutanix in a redundant data centers across the U.S. And then that's my goal is to finish that off here soon, and it'll be on premise. It's a high availability Nutanix cluster.
Okay.
Yeah, it has a login interface similar to Overt. They have two of them. One's Element and one's Prism. And Prism controls everything. It's just like what Overt did for hosted engine, and yeah, it's really not all that different when you log into it. When you look at the Overt's platform. Okay.
Yeah. So if you have the contact there, or could somehow give us information where we can find what API. So I think they have a lot of API information online, but if we could have at least a hint telling us, okay, this is the API you have to use, and this is how you get the information and the data out, that would be really helpful. Then we can have a look a bit closer. That would be really nice.
Okay, I can do that. I don't want to waste everybody else's time. I will work on getting those APIs and then getting in contact with you. And I think I've worked with you before and somebody else, but I'll do that. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. Then we had one question about the tape alerts. Yes, the tape alerts things is, I think, the same as other tape SCSI standards. That's already at least 20 or 30 years old. So that's a standard that more or less is supported, I think, by everything that you can buy today in tape hardware. I think it might be that some vendors have own extensions, but I think the basic tape alert flags are the same everywhere. Okay.
We also had support for tape alerts in the past, but now it's much nicer.
Yes. Exactly. And it also didn't really work well before.
Okay.
And we didn't have the information what every tabular flag means, which we do have now. Okay, yeah, that's it. That's my part of the presentation so far. Yeah, and now I would say, Jörg, you can take over again, and we have open discussion.
Yeah, so now you have the chance to raise any additional questions you got about Bareos, and also would be curious for whom this this Windows Disaster Recovery is interesting, or the Hyper-V plugin or Proxmox. So yeah, maybe you already got some thoughts about that you want to test it or have some needs for this. Just tell us.
And don't be shy. Even if we didn't speak about your thing, you can express it, and so we can see what we are missing.
Yeah, regarding Proxmox, we intend to migrate from VMware to Proxmox in Q2 2026, because that's when our VMware contract ends. So Proxmox is very relevant for us.
I had a question on that. Are you guys using Proxmox in a data center environment?
On premises.
Right. On-prem in a data center?
Yeah, in our server room in the office, and we have a co-location for emergency cases.
And are you using the licensed version of Proxmox for that? Or use the
Yes, we
free?
will.
Okay.
So not yet. We are still working on the migration plan, so it's only theory. But yeah, we have to speed up our migration so that we are ready by March, April.
But
and what was your decision to go with Proxmox over another one besides? Obviously, I understand VMware. I was just curious.
Nobody likes Broadcom, and the pricing is obscene.
Yeah,
it really is. We had a contract for 3 years, and just like many other customers, they turned it down to 1.5 years or something, and said, yeah, you have to pay extra. And yeah, that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, no, I understand. The reason I'm asking is because I was trying to debate over Proxmox, and I just wasn't happy with the type of support if something was to go wrong in a production environment over multi-data center locations. That's why I was curious what made you choose that.
Yeah, we have a consulting company in Hamburg who have direct contact to the Austrian guys who create Proxmox. So they help us set up all the storage thing and plan a good migration path, and afterwards will help us with any upcoming problems and have a direct wire to Austria. So we're not that scared of that.
Okay. All right. Thanks
I have
for
to say
letting me know.
that at least in Europe, a lot of companies are migrating to Proxmox for mid-size environments, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you guys for the input on that.
Okay. Do we have more questions?
Yes, I have a question. Is there a good way to back up an S3 target? Also V3, the last try is to use rclone, and this can synchronize a bucket. Also, it can mount it on a mount point, and I want to back up this mount point, but it's actually not work. I don't know. Bareos means there are no permissions, but it runs as root. I don't know.
So did I get it right? You want to back up S3 buckets, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So we do have a plugin for that is called the Cloud plugin. It didn't work in between. So when it was created, it worked. And then, unfortunately, some evolution inside of the Python interpreter broke it, because they forbid to create sub-processes inside of sub-interpreters that we are using in the plugins. But currently, with the current new way of doing the Python interpreter in an own sub-process, we are it seems to work again, or it doesn't seem to work. It works again, and we will probably also have this available again in Bareos 25. And then you can try it out again with that. That is optimized to back up S3 buckets in parallel with a lot of threads at the same time. The details, I think, Stefan is with us. Stefan
Yes,
Mühr?
yes.
Maybe you can tell a bit more
Yeah,
detail. Sorry, I
yeah,
forgot
just-
that you are here. He
Yeah,
took
yes,
care
I'm
of
here.
it.
I'm
Sorry.
just not with camera because I'm still a bit sick. Yes, I have currently already successfully. The issue was with using the multi-processing Python module, which we did to not run into Python global interpreter log issues. For maximizing the performance, it is a good approach, but unfortunately, this only works until Python 3.6, and with newer Python version, it does simply not work anymore. So what I tried is to just switch it to the Python threading module, which for sure is those are not real, those are no real threads. It still runs on the single CPU core, but as this is I/O and network bound workload, it's still beneficial, and it works on current Python versions. So we will have a working solution which is will be still based on the Apache libcloud Python module that will allow you to back up data on S3 or S3 compatible buckets. It's just not we cannot yet guarantee if it will be in the initial release of Bareos 25 or maybe a bit later. So, of course, yeah.
Would this solve your problems, or you're still looking for another solution?
I don't know. I will try.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can. Yeah.
Actually,
I mean,
we have no backup of our S3, but yeah, yes, we try rclone. Rclone.
So how big
Yeah,
is how big is the data that you're going to back up? How many buckets do you have there? How many files?
We have some buckets, but it's there are only a few necessary at the moment. But it's
Okay.
grow normally.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
this,
but that's
is
definitely interesting also for us
Yeah.
to have real world examples to see how it performs. Very good.
Anybody else planning to do backups of S3 buckets here? I think so. Yeah, Christoph. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So this is it is a Python-based Bareos file daemon plugin. So you can, and it also supports for sure incremental backups and even accurate mode. So I think it's going to be quite good, a quite good solution to back up S3 data. Rclone mounts can't be backed up. Okay, I mean
That's the problem.
I don't know. The plugin just recurses over all the objects that it finds in the bucket. That's the issue that you can have with
Yeah, the
Rclone.
plugin may work, but if you just consider it to be a normal file system, then the file daemon is not happy about fuse file system.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, probably
mount,
the
okay.
probably also the plugin definitely is much faster, even if the fuse would work. So I think probably it makes definitely
Yeah, but
sense. to
for
use
sure,
the
one
plugin.
solution could be to use Rclone first to mirror it to local storage, and then use Bareos to back up that local storage somehow. But like this, you're duplicating the data, and
Yes, that's the problem.
probably not what you want. So yeah. Okay, thanks for that question. Then Any other questions?
Hey, Philip, will you guys be doing this again soon? Or is this just kind of, this is the first time I've ever been to one of these meetings, so I was just curious, how often do you think you'll be doing these?
Every few months. So the last one has been 6 months ago, and the next one, yeah, probably also in a few months.
Okay. And then is it possible you send me an email regarding the API for Nutanix so I can actually get the question correct that I sent to him? Can you do that for me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I think we do have your email address probably, right? Then I can.
Yeah, you guys have been helping me out with some backup issues in the past regarding deleting old backups and stuff. I think you guys still have my email there.
Okay, I'll have a look. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Okay. So, any more questions? Now is the time. Okay. Yeah. In this case,
Have you all filled in the polls? Of course, is the question that's open. So in case not, please. Would be nice to get some feedback on them also from you all guys.
So regarding Nutanix, do they have appliances, including the hardware, or is it software that they are?
It's software.
Okay, so you choose the hardware and.
Yeah, you can either choose. So they have a specialized hardware that you can go with from either Dell or Supermicros, and they build it for you, and they have their software plugins in there, or you build it manually, which is what I did just so I could get familiar with Nutanix. That's what they have.
good. So, I guess if there are no more questions, then we are done for today.
We're done.
So, thank you everybody for coming, and I hope it has been interesting, and I hope you're all going to test out the new features that we will provide in the next release. Yeah, and continue to work with Bareos. Yeah. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you.